Welcome and good morning to our first virtual Bike Safe Fresno program. We are excited to switch to this medium. We originally intended to have in-person events, but due to COVID, we're going to move it online. So we are going to have our first session of the Smart Cycling curriculum. And today we're going to talk about bike basics and maintenance. Before we start with the content, a little bit housekeeping. As I mentioned before, we have Spanish translation available. My Spanish is terrible, but if you don't understand English, I'm going to give it a try. Si desea la traducción al español, por favor, cambie al canal español. Emilia, I hope that wasn't too butchered. I tried to work on my Spanish. And if you have any questions during this webinar, please type them in the chat and we will make sure to address them either during the webinar or afterwards. My name is Laura Gromes. I'm the Executive Director of USGBC Central California. We are a nonprofit located here in Fresno, and our mission is to transform the way buildings and communities are designed, built, and operated. We are working on the Bike Safe Fresno program, and through this program, we want to encourage the conversation on biking around safely in Fresno and what kind of infrastructure we need to enable everybody to get around. We collected a bunch of information on our Bike Safe Fresno website, usgbcc.org/bikesafefresno. There you can also find our survey, what would help you to bike more around Fresno. And we're just trying to collect some data points that are independent of any specific project, but just try to get an idea of what are the impediments, what is keeping people from biking more in Fresno, because we have a wonderful flat city which has most of the year ideal temperatures for biking, but we do not see a lot of people on their bikes outside. So please take the survey and help us understand what would help you to bike more around Fresno. We're working on this project because many, including me, have grown up on their bikes and really experienced how empowering this is to be able to get around by moving your own body. The nice side effects of this empowering independent mode of transportation is that it cleans the air, reduces local emission, and is also good for your health. I know plenty of people that started riding their bike because they felt they put on too many pounds. So biking has really a lot of great benefits, and people in Fresno should really have the opportunity to bike around more. The Bike Safe Fresno program is part of the Transformative Climate Communities project. And the initiative is now called Transform Fresno. Starting in 2016, the residents of Southwest Fresno, downtown Fresno, and Chinatown have been engaging in a conversation on what they would like to see in terms of capital improvement to create a transformative climate community in Fresno. The total investment is 140 million. 70 million is coming through the TCC grant and 70 million is coming in matching funds. This money is funding, amongst others, the development of a satellite campus of the Fresno City College campus, as well as a bunch of energy improvement, housing project, and active transportation project. next Saturday in our second session of the Smart Cycling program, we are going to be talking more in depth about the capital improvements. There is one other exciting bike project coming starting next year. There's going to be 200 electric bikes that are part of a bike share program. So that means at 20 to 30 stations all around downtown, Chinatown, and Southwest Fresno, you're going to be able to pick up an electric bike that you can lend out. So look out for information on this program coming out. Just a little caveat, you have to be 18 or older to use those bikes. But there'll be more information coming on that soon. You might wonder, why do you guys, especially as Green Building Council, advocate for the inclusion of active transportation in the Transformative Climate Communities project? And you see this little pie chart here that is showing the total greenhouse gas emissions in California for 2017, and a big part, 41% of that is transportation. So looking at alternatives for transportation is instrumental in reducing our emissions here in California, which is good for our air and good for our climate. Our event today is a partnership between USGBC Central California and the Fresno County Bicycle Coalition. And our project is funded by the California Strategic Growth Council and California Climate Investment. And we are working on this project in collaboration with the city of Fresno. About today's event, we'll be joined now by 3 gentlemen from the Fresno County Bicycle Coalition, all of which are using their bikes for their daily transportation, and they have a lot of great tips to share. So first, Tony Molina is going to go over bike basics. Then Jeremy Doyle is going to show us a little bit on how to maintain your bike. And Leo is going to talk about bike clothing and gear and night riding. And afterwards, we'll have a question and answer. I wanted to share a poll and ask you guys, do you guys already use your bike? So I'll give you a little time. Please vote your bike frequency. So the questions are, do you use a bike? Yes, I have a bike and bike weekly. Yes, I have a bike and bike monthly. Yes, I have a bike and bike a couple of times a year. I do not own a bike, but use a shared bike. I do not own a bike, but would like to ride. I do not own a bike and I'm not interested. So I'll just give you a couple more seconds. We want to cover a lot of things here in this webinar. So please make your choices if you can get to it. Sometimes when some devices don't allow us. Okay, so you had 45 seconds, and I'm going to close the poll now and share the results. All right, great. Lots of people have a bike and bike weekly. That's my majority. We have some people that bike monthly and some that use a shared bike. That is great. All right, wonderful. I close the poll again, and I'm going to hand it over now to Tony Molina. Tony, and I'll ask you to start screen sharing with your presentation.
Okay, good morning. Let me see if I can share my screen and get this started here. And good morning. Welcome to Smart Cycling, the Basics. I'm Tony Molina. I'm the chair of the Fresno County Bicycle Coalition. Our mission is to promote bicycling for everyday transportation and recreation in Fresno County through advocacy and education. And I want to thank the U.S. Green Building Council for hosting this event today. And I also want to introduce Jeremy Doyle, who will be one of our board members. He'll be speaking about bike maintenance, and John Liu, who will be talking about clothing, accessories, inclement, and night riding. This course is normally taught in 4 parts, including a non-bike part, but due to the pandemic, we'll unfortunately not be able to do that, but we'll try to do the best we can. But this part is talking about the basics. You can get additional online information through the League of American Bicyclists website, bikeleague.org/ridesmart, and it has some excellent information for you. But this morning I'll be talking about the bicycle. Jeremy, as I mentioned, will be talking about bicycle maintenance, and John Liu will be talking about clothing and equipment. We'll speak a little bit about some of the handling skills that can help you avoid crashes, and more about that next week. But first of all, choosing your bike. I don't know how many people already have bikes, but you may be happy with the bike you have, or you may want to consider a new bike. We can talk a little bit about some of our recommendations. We do. It depends on how much you want to spend. You can spend $200 on a big box bike, but that has a lot of disadvantages. So I would really highly recommend checking out your local bike shop. They can help you fit the right bike for you, and also help you with adjustments and maintenance. And they offer a lot. So one of the difference between a cheap bike is, for example, is not having quick releases. You have to have a wrench to unbolt the wheel to change your flat tire, so it's very inconvenient. So I would recommend considering spending as much money as you can, as your budget will allow, and you get better components, and your bike may be more comfortable. They can also help you with getting the right saddle, which is really critical. And sometimes they'll loan you a saddle from a bike shop that you can use to try out before you buy it, as they can be sometimes expensive. So a lot of what you will be choosing your bike for will depend on where you'll be riding. Are you going to be riding in the city, in the country, and what you're wanting to be using your bike for? Are you going to be using it for transporting your groceries or getting to work? Is it going to have space at your work to fold it up? So all of these issues come into play on your choice of amount of a bike. So if you want to do recreational riding up in the foothills, a road bike is great, or a mountain bike. If you're wanting to get around the city, a hybrid or comfort bike that you can put some racks on and carry things around on is an excellent choice. Or you may even want to consider paying a little bit more and getting an electric bike to get around. That could actually replace your car. There's also bicycles built for two, such as the tandem or the recumbent bike, which is more comfortable, and you can get those in tricycles, so they're very stable. I see a lot of people riding those around on the trails. So if you just want something that you're not worried about falling over, tipping, consider a recumbent trike. So once you get your bike, you want to be able, once you have a bike and you want to check it out, usually got an angled tube. So once you get your bike, you want to be able to make sure it fits, and you want to make sure you get the right size bike frame. So they come in small, medium, and large. The frame size is usually measured from the center of the bottom bracket to the center of the top tube, and road bikes are in centimeters, and mountain bikes are usually measured in inches. But you want to make sure you get the right size, so that's where a bike shop can help you with that. But once you have a bike and you want to check it out, you want to do the straddle test. So you stand over the bike and lift the front and rear wheels off the ground. And for a road bike, should be about an inch or two of space between the wheels and the floor of the road bike. And for a mountain bike, about 3 or 4 inches, because it's usually got an angled tube. So, some of the key things that you can adjust on your bike, as we mentioned, are the saddle. You can be adjusted at the seat post collar, and you can also adjust the handlebars. Sometimes the stems are adjustable, or they need to, if they're fixed, they can be swapped out for a different size to make sure that you're resting comfortably on the bicycle. So adjusting your saddle height, you want to make sure that there's a slight bend in your knee when your pedal is all the way down. So and your front knee should be above the center of the pedal. You make sure your saddle is level, not angled, and make sure it's comfortable. Women may find that women-specific saddles are more comfortable. Again, saddle comfort is critical, and it's a matter of trial and error sometimes to find the right saddle for you. So handlebars, you should pick a handlebar that's as wide as your shoulders, and you want to have just like I say, a slight bend in your elbows. The basic rule is that a handlebar, should be comfortable. It shouldn't feel like you're cramped or uncomfortable. You want to make sure that in a dropped handlebar, you should be adjusted so your elbows are slightly bent when grabbing the top of the bar. And with a flat bar like a mountain bike, you want to make sure that the elbows are slightly bent with your hands on the grips, and your forearms and wrists are in a straight line. So once your bike fit and you're ready to hit the road, you want to make sure your bike is ready to ride, and you want to perform what we call the ABC quick check, and this can help prevent crashes and make sure your bike is in good condition. So the ABC quick check stands for A, which is for air, B for brakes, C for chain, cranks, and cassette, Q for quick releases, and check is for checking, doing a slow checking ride around your bike. So just kind of review that. You want to check your wheels and your tires, make sure there's enough air in them. You want to measure it to the pressure that's written on the sidewall of your tire, and make sure there's no cracks or gashes. So it helps to have a pump that has a pressure measure on it, a floor pump, but I really prefer makes it easy, and you can check I check my air pressure every time before I ride, just to make sure. So check your air pressure will probably stay up to pressure, rideable pressure for a week if you leave it, but depending on if there are any slow leaks in your valve. So check your you can do the thumb pressure, but I find it's not as accurate as using a gauge. But you want to make sure that it's not obviously soft, unless you're riding a mountain bike and you want it kind of soft. So B is for brakes. You want to make sure that there's good pad on the brakes, and make sure they're aligned properly to the wheel rim. And C is for chain, cranks, and cassette. You want to make sure that the wheel is not, the chain is not rusty, that it's lubricated properly, it's not making a lot of noise, and you make sure your cassette is clean, not a lot of debris and grease buildup. And then also you want to give your crank a quick stress on it to make sure it's not rocking or there's loose in the bottom bracket there. So and then quick is to check all your quick releases on your wheels and on your seat post. Make sure everything's tightened up on your brakes. Make sure they're quick releases are open or closed, depending on how you like to ride with them. And then C is do a quick little ride, a little slow ride around the street before you take off, making sure there's no unusual noises that could indicate something rubbing. Make sure there's everything's nice and smooth there. So and before you get out, you want to make sure your helmet is on and properly adjusted. So you want to put 2 fingers between your eyebrows for helmet, or you can, if you can see the top of your helmet, you want to make sure your helmet is level. You want to adjust the straps so that there's a Y below the ear. There's a little strap adjuster on there. And then you want to make sure that there's less than a half inch, so maybe a finger width in your strap. And so you make sure your it's not loose. So, and then kind of be aware that of the 5 layers of safety, the first layer of safety is bike control. You know, about half of adult crashes are single rider falls. If you can control your bike, you'll avoid falling or running into other cyclists and cars and pedestrians. The second layer of safety is obey the law. About half the crashes with cars and bikes are caused by cyclists making bad decisions. So follow the traffic laws, obey all the signs and signals, use correct lanes for turns through movements, ride on the side of the flow of traffic. That's a lot of crashes occur from wrong way riding. So make sure you're in the right position on the road. Number 3, motorists in unsafe positions cause the other half, but when you can control the lane or share the lane, you should, do what is appropriate. Your lane position can tell drivers what you're doing and discourage them from making right hooks, left crosses, or other mistakes. So about 90% of crashes can be avoided with the first 3 layers. And then 4, if you can practice hazard avoidance maneuvers, which we'll talk about next time. And then your 5th layer of safety is gloves, helmets, and glasses at a minimum. So those can prevent most crashes, and if you do have one, can minimize those impacts. So thank you. I'm going to pass this along to Jeremy Doyle to talk about bike maintenance.
All right. Is that all you had, Tony?
Yeah, that's fine. Apologies. I'm still figuring out PowerPoint, so I inadvertently advanced the slide there, so we missed out on some of that. So go ahead. Floor is yours, Jeremy.
All right. Okay, so I'll be talking about bike maintenance, mostly cleaning and lubrication of your bicycle. A bicycle is just a collection of moving parts. So like any other machine, those parts will be rubbing against each other constantly. Your little chain is constantly working against each other. So if you have dirt or sand in between all these metal pieces, they're constantly grinding and wearing down. So if you keep it clean and well lubricated, that will make it last much longer than if you don't do anything at all. But first, before we lubricate the machine, we need to clean it. So we will need water, we will need a bucket, we will need some kind of soap. I use dish soap. Other people like degreaser. There's many different options. I use a little brush to scrub the whole thing, a toothbrush that you can steal from a family member, and an old rag to clean up all the mess. So you'll mix up your bucket of soapy water, soap and water. Take your brush, scrub all of the parts of your bike, except you may not want to scrub your saddle and your handle and what they are. You may have to apply it a couple times to the drivetrain, which is the chain and all of the gears and the mechanisms, until you get it mostly clean. It doesn't have to be perfect. You'll take your toothbrush and scrub in here and try to get most of the filth out of these small gears. It's not critical to be perfectly clean, but it helps to get it mostly clean. After that, you will let it sit for a few minutes, covered in the soapy water, to let it dissolve all the grease and filth, and then rinse it gently with a garden hose or something like that. Avoid spraying water directly into the bearings, which are in the center of anything that rotates here, the center of the wheels, the center of the crankshaft. If you get water into those bearings, it will dissolve the grease, and then the bearings will eventually be ruined. So after we've cleaned it and rinsed it off, we need to oil everything. And we won't use WD-40 because WD-40 might work for a little while, but very quickly it dries up and there's nothing left and your chain gets rusty. We will use silicone spray lubricant. It's similar to WD-40, but it leaves a film on the metal that protects it from water, which causes rust, and it helps the parts keep sliding against each other without friction. You'll find silicone spray right next to WD-40 in just about every store, grocery store, Walmart, hardware store, wherever. So we'll take our silicone spray. After we've let the bike dry, after cleaning it, you may want to prop it upside down or put it on a stand, something like that. And what I do is just turn the crank so the chain's moving, spray a little bit on, go around a couple times to make sure you get the whole chain. You'll take a little bit of your spray and apply it to all the moving parts, just a little bit on the brakes, on the levers. Don't get any on the wheel itself because then your brakes won't work, and that's not fun. After you've done all that, take your rag, clean off any little drips, clean off any excess from the chain, and let it dry. And repeat as necessary. Some people like to do it every week. Some people do it every month. I usually do it whenever the chain starts squeaking. That works well enough for me. And doing that will help your chain and drivetrain last a very long time. If you don't do it, eventually your chain will break, your gears will wear down, and then you'll have a broken bicycle, which nobody wants. And so, after you're riding your freshly cleaned and lubricated bicycle, you might hear a pop, and you've got a flat tire. Now, if you've done your ABC quick check, your quick leash will be tight, so you'll have to release that. So, and your brakes will probably be closed if you have a bike with brakes. Little known fact, people who ride bikes without brakes, I'll call crazy people. That's a fact. So we'll take the wheel out. We will release any air that might still be in the tire. And we will use a tire lever. These are some of mine. These just help. They help you remove and install the tire. Uh-oh. Now what you'll want to do, we have to pull the bead of the tire over the rim. So we'll insert the lever. We'll just pry it over carefully. Some tires are more difficult to work with than others. These aren't too bad, so I can just pull, brace the wheel against me, and I can pull it all the way around. And so we've got the first bead off. Usually the second bead, which is still on there, will come off pretty easily. Pull it off. Pull the valve stem out of the hole. Now you can either patch your tube or replace it. I always carry a spare tube with me just so I can replace it. I've had mixed results trying to patch it. But before you put your new tube in, you need to go around the tire, feel the inside for any sharp objects that may have popped your tube. After you go all the way around the tire, checking for sharp objects, you can install your tube again, your new tube or repaired tube. Install the valve stem. put on the first bead. Using your thumbs is all you really need to do. Oops, I didn't do that too well. Just work it on with your thumbs. Let's see. Oops, yeah. Okay, so the first bead is on all the way around. The second bead will be more difficult, but we'll do it the same way with the thumbs, just pressing it on as far as it'll go. If you have trouble towards the end, some tires are more difficult than others. You can take your tire lever and just kind of help to force it back on. You can kind of pull it towards you. You may have to wiggle it, but eventually you'll get it back on. Be careful not to jam it in there too hard and tear up the tube. So we'll just pretend I finished that. So after we have the whole bead back on, we'll inflate the tire with our pump. This is mine. And we will inflate the tire to the pressure listed on the sidewall. This one says maximum 120. You don't want to exceed that. It could pop the tire. While you're inflating it, make sure that the sidewall is seated evenly. If you see part of it kind of bulge out like this, you want to let the air out, massage the tire a little bit, and get it back even, then inflate it again. So, in the interest of time, we'll just pretend I did all that. I can put it back in. Make sure it turns. I can close my quick release, close my brakes, make sure it spins. Well, I didn't finish that very well, but we'll pretend it spins. Ride slowly at first to make sure it's okay, and then you'll be ready to go. Lastly, and definitely leastly, I'll mention brakes. This is a section of wheel here. You'll see it just came from that. So generally, there are a lot of different kinds of brakes, but generally we'll want our brake pads to be about 2 or 3 credit card widths from the rim. If they're too far, your brakes won't close enough to hit the rim. If they're too close, it'll rub the rim and slow you down, wear down your brakes, that kind of thing. And you'll find on your bike there are small things called barrel adjusters, either on the brakes or on the levers, that you can twist and it will close or open the brakes. And that's a very brief explanation of brakes. You'll have to do more research for your own bike since there are many different kinds of brakes. Okay, that concludes my presentation. Coming up next on Bike TV is John Liu, who will tell us about clothing and riding at night and the aspects of safety involved with those.
John, real quick, while Jeremy did his bike maintenance, we've done a little poll if people are maintaining their bikes, and it seems like the majority is cleaning their bikes, and some people change tires, not everybody is oiling their chain, and some people don't maintain their bikes. So Jeremy, thank you so much for the education, and hopefully people learn something about this. Now off to you, John.
Great, thanks, Laura. Yeah, I'm going to be talking about bike gear, bike accessories, a little bit about night riding and riding in bad weather. So I'm going to be showing you a lot of accessories. And first thing I want to point out is you don't have to spend a lot of money, and you don't have to buy everything all at once. You could start slowly, and as you do more bike riding, you probably want to get more stuff that will make your ride more enjoyable, more comfortable. And a lot of these things you could just buy at your discount store like Walmart, Target, online, Amazon, eBay, but also your local bike shop. And they're going to have things with higher quality, it'll last longer. It may cost a little bit more, but in the long run, it may be better. And certainly you're going to get better service at your local bike shop. So let's first talk about some of the safety items. And Tony talked about helmets, and that is probably the most important thing. Helmets are not expensive. You could spend less than $20. Helmets are required for those under 18 years old. It's optional for those who are adults, but highly, highly recommended. I will never ride a bike without a helmet, so I do recommend that for everybody else. As Tony mentioned, you want to protect your eyes as well. So during daytime, wear sunglasses. At nighttime, I actually wear clear glasses, and that's going to protect your eyes from debris and things that may fly into your eyes. Gloves are also very important. Gloves will provide cushioning, will make your ride more comfortable as you're gripping the handlebars. If you fall down, it's going to save your palms. Fingerless gloves are good to provide access to your brake levers, to your shifters, but if you're going to be riding when it's really cold, say colder than 50 degrees, you're probably going to want to get fall gloves. And then as things warm up, keep your fingerless gloves ready so you can swap them out, because the full gloves are a little bit bulkier. Let's move on to clothes. And as far as clothes, you don't have to buy any special clothes, just wear your everyday clothes. You always want to wear bright colors because you want to be visible to traffic. And Fresno gets very hot. Obviously in the summer, it gets cool in the winter. And as you're riding your bike, you are going to be warming up. So it's a good idea to wear layers. And so when it's cool, start your ride with a windbreaker or a light jacket. And again, bright colors. This is a jacket I only spent about $20, but after you're on your bike for a couple miles, you're probably going to want to take it off. You can wad it up and just stick it into your bag. For the hot weather, just a brightly colored t-shirt works great. But if you do long rides where you may work up a little bit of a sweat, it's nice to have fabrics that are moisture wicking. So there are a lot of sports fabrics available. And for instance, this is a shirt I bought from Target on clearance for about $10. So it looks like a jersey, but it's actually just a regular old shirt. And this works very, very well. As I mentioned, Fresno gets warm, and it's very important to hydrate. So you may want to get a water bottle and a bottle holder. This is only about $5. Most bikes have an area that's already pre-drilled to install this. So it's very easy to add onto your bike. If you ride your bike with long pants, sometimes your pant leg could get along the chain and make a mess. So these straps are very handy, only a couple dollars. And they're also very bright. Sometimes they have a reflective stripe. So it's another safety element that can be used. And if you ride on trails, you need to be mindful of other pedestrians and bicyclists, especially as you pass. So you may want to consider getting a bell. But if you don't have a bell, all you have to do is announce yourself and say, "On your left." So that's always a courtesy that you should provide. If you are going to be going to stores and leaving your bike unattended, a bike lock is a must. And Ed and Thor will be talking more about bike locks and bike parking in next week's session. But I do want to mention that a U-lock, a very basic one, costs about $10. But you probably want to buy something that's a little bit higher quality, has a thicker gauge steel. It's going to be less easy to defeat. But they can get very, very heavy for some of the high-end bike locks, and when they're so heavy, you may not want to actually use it because you're carrying this load. So just shop around for the best bike lock that is for you. So let's talk about riding at night. And the important thing to consider is you want to be able to be seen by other motorists, and you want to be able to see where you're going. And you also want to be on the right side of the law. So in California, you are required to have a light in front, a white light in the front. You are not required to have a light in the back. You're only required to have a red reflector. So we do have a poll question. Do you ride your bike at night? Easy question, yes or no. So just pick the box. So as far as the lights, you don't have to spend a lot of money. This is a kit that's only about $20. You could actually buy tail lights from the 99-cent store. So obviously only be about $1. You could actually just use a cheap flashlight for your headlight and just use duct tape or strap it onto your handlebars. But if you're going to do more bike riding, you want to get some decent lights. One thing I want to mention is that most lights do have a setting for flash, for instance. And when it is on flash, your batteries will actually last longer. But if you're riding at dusk or dawn, a flashing front light will make yourself more conspicuous to other motorists. But when it's dark, obviously you're going to want to have it on solid. And light is measured in lumens. And you would think that the more lumens, the better. However, the more lumens, the faster your battery is going to be depleted. So you want to have a light that is bright as you need. If you're riding on city streets that have a lot of street lights, you won't need something as bright as if you're riding in a country road where it's pitch black. There are also little blinky lights. They're less than $2, but they're nice to have in a spare. Most lights are either using batteries like AA, AAA. Some of the newer lights you actually plug into your USB port. I like to use the ones that use regular batteries. I use rechargeable batteries, and I keep a spare set of batteries, so I'm always ready to go. Another thing to make yourself more conspicuous at night is to wear a vest. And again, not very expensive, $5 or $10, but it will make yourself much more visible at night. So let's move on to talk about riding in the rain. So I talked about a jacket, and it's good to have a water-resistant jacket. So one of the annoying things about riding in the rain is you have a lot of the spray from the back wheel. And if your bike doesn't have a built-in fender, you could actually buy a plastic clamp-on fender. This one's only about $20, but it's going to prevent your back from being covered with gunk in your ride. And if you're worried about your hair, you could actually buy a cover for your helmet, just a couple bucks. But you can actually use a shower cap and put it underneath your helmet. If you are going to be doing a lot of wet riding, you may want to invest actually in a nice breathable jacket, because you will be warming up as you ride. And you get something that's breathable, it's going to be much more comfortable. And you can actually get water resistant bike pants that you just wear over your everyday clothes. Let's talk about gear. And to carry cargo, the easiest thing is actually just use a backpack. You carry lots of stuff with a backpack. And Ed and Thor will be talking about cargo carrying in the next class. Backpacks can be big if you just have a little bit of gear. I like to use lumbar bags or fanny packs. You can actually get a lot of things in here. Your cell phone, your wallet, you can get your lunch in here. I always carry a mini pump just in case something happens. And if you do get a slow leak in your tire, you may be able to just pump it up and ride it home. But if you're going to be taking long rides, you really want to be ready. And Jeremy showed you how to change the tire. So I'm always ready by having a little saddlebag, and this mounts just right underneath the saddle or the seat. And you're able to carry 1 or 2 tubes. Simple tools, screwdrivers and wrenches, and finally, one of these handy dandy levers to take the bike wheel tire on or off. So I hope this gives you some ideas about some of the accessories that will make your ride more enjoyable and more comfortable. So I'll pass it back to you, Laura. Thank you.
All right, wonderful. Thank you so much, John, for all the great overview. There was a question on the different types of bags. What are the different types of bike bags? Do you want to just give a brief answer to that? I mean, you already went over the fanny pack.
Yeah, so, and really stay tuned to next week's class where Ed and Thor are going to go into much more detail. So for myself, I do have various sizes of bags, from full-blown backpacks to very small fanny bags. You could also have like panniers, different types of bags that you actually mount on your bicycle. And Ed is going to be covering those next week. So the best thing is just stay tuned for next week's class, and you'll hear a lot more about different ways to carry cargo.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much, John. We alluded a little bit that we are gonna be giving out helmets sponsored by BPAC, and those will be distributed on November 20th at King's Elementary School. And we'll send a reminder to the email address that you have provided. So I hope you learned something. We have some time for question and answers. Before we get into this, I would like to launch a short demographic question for when you're working on grants. They always would like to know a little bit about attendees. We're not going to share the results of this survey, so this is all anonymous. If you could fill this out real briefly, that would be great. Yeah, please just take the time to go through which zip code do you live in, and what ethnicity do you identify as, yeah, all these questions are anonymous and we're not going to share them. So we would appreciate if you can give your input into this. So we have that important information. Usually when you have in-person classes, it's much easier to collect this information. Yeah, so if you do not live in one of those zip codes, but you would work in one of those zip codes, that works as well. So thank you so much for everybody. Tony?
Yes, I just, before we get into any other questions, I just wanted to share about the helmet sizing. I wanted to just show that the helmet survey will ask you what your size is. The helmets that we come in are multi-sport helmets, and they're small, medium, large, and extra large. And it depends on the size of your helmet. So I just wanted to just go over the helmet measuring procedure for anybody. If you have a tape measure, you want to just measure around the largest part of your head, around your forehead, and then the sizes of the helmets are, 21, 20, 23, 24, and 25 roughly. So if you have centimeters or inches, you can input that in. If you don't have a tape measure around, a simple way to figure this out without having a tape measure, just use a piece of string and then a ruler, and then just measure it out on the table, and then you can figure it out that way. So.
All right, wonderful. Thank you so much, Tony. I shared the link to the helmet survey in the chat, so make sure you find that and fill it out. Let's see if are there any more questions in the chat. So definitely, how often do you have to clean the chains and the bike mechanisms? There were some answers. Jeremy, do you want to go into this a little bit?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, everybody will have a different answer. Some people like to do it every week. Some people every month. I think I end up doing it every 2 months or so. Just whenever I hear the chain start to make noise, that's when I get annoyed and I decide I need to clean it. If you really want a perfect bike, you can do it, every week or more often. But it's not that critical how often you do it, just that you do it a couple times a year.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much, Jeremy. Are there any more questions from the audience? Is there anything I should do to clean the brakes?
Oh, well, I guess it depends on what kind of brakes you have. Usually you can just use the same soapy water that you clean the bike with. I think disc brakes like to have a special alcohol-based cleaner because they exert a lot of pressure on the disc. But yeah, usually you can just use that same soapy water and that works well enough.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. If getting a bike from a local store like Walmart, Target, what brand would be reliable? Anybody want to take that question on?
Yeah, some of the if you're going to go with a big box store bike, Mongoose seems to be you know, one brand that kind of comes to mind, but they you know, there are different ones available, but yeah, it's definitely there. I didn't also mention that there's used bikes available too. That one shop you might consider looking if you're in the market for a low cost bike is put in a commercial plug for Tower Velo, and Chris Eacock does resell used bikes that are you know, sometimes a good deal. You can also go online and you have to kind of be careful with Craigslist. Sometimes they're stolen, but sometimes you can get a pretty good deal if you go online, and those are some of the options there. But like I say, if you are going to buy a bike at a big box store, definitely look for features that would include the quick release on the wheels there. So I would not recommend buying a big box bike that you need a wrench to take the wheels off if you have a flat tire.
And there's also this new bike store in Chinatown, Dave Street Customs Bike Shop. I've not tried this bike store out before, but there was they got highlighted in the Fresno Bee earlier this year. So they are also selling used bikes. So that would be a great one to check out. Let me see. Are there any more questions here? Don't be shy. So I'm not seeing more questions currently. I would like to invite you to take one more poll here. Here I'm launching the polling. After attending this webinar, are you more likely to ride your bike? We hope everybody gave you a great information, and we'll follow up next week with our second part of the Smart Cycling workshop, where we're going to talk about riding on the road in Fresno. So definitely sign up for this as well. We'll give an overview over what kind of bicycle facilities there are, what kind of projects are going to be financed through the Transformative Climate Initiative project in Fresno, the Transform Fresno project, and give some great tips from bikers that use the roads of Fresno regularly on how to get around with a focus on the TCC project area, which is downtown Fresno, Chinatown, and Southwest Fresno. So after attending this webinar, most people are, everybody is more likely to use their bike. So that's amazing. Biking is fun. It's good for you. It's good for the environment. We really are looking forward to working with you and a lot of different partners to engage more in a conversation on how we can make it possible in Fresno to create safer ways to ride your bike, because this is really a great city most times to ride your bike. Of course, not when the mountains are burning, but the great thing is people riding bikes more prevents mountains from burning, because producing less greenhouse gases is going to reduce the fire risk. So everything is connected a little bit. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Emilia, I forgot to ask, do we have any questions from the Spanish channel? One? Oh, no. No. Okay. No question from the Spanish channel. Any last words, Jeremy, Anthony, John?
I just wanted to add about that last question. I guess no matter where you buy your bike, and especially if you get it from one of the bigger stores, go over it really carefully and make sure that they put it together properly, because some people have been hurt by bikes that have been just slapped together really quickly. You don't necessarily need to take it to another store and have them check. Just before you go for a ride, make sure everything works and moves properly.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much, Jeremy. And definitely also be on the lookout for those electric bike sharing, for the electric bike sharing program that is coming to Fresno next year. I've never been on an electric bike, so I'm very much looking forward to trying this out. All right, I hope yeah, it was great to spend our Saturday morning here with you. I hope you learned everything, learned a lot. Tony has some more.
Yeah, just so a last word. Thank you, Laura, for hosting us. But I also wanted to encourage people to follow us, our website, Fresno Bike, and also our Facebook page. And also the BPAC has a Facebook page, also the City of Fresno Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee. So so check out our social media and stay up to date on our activities.
All right, wonderful. Yeah, and all the links are available on our Bike Safe Fresno website, usgbccc.org/bikesafefresno. All right, wonderful. Thank you so much. And I hope that we get over this COVID emergency situation so that we can meet in person soon. Until then, please sign up for next week's event, and we hope to see you then again. Thank you. Bye.